With the 7-year history of Adidas jerseys in the NHL coming to an end, and also because a couple of other videos that I'm working on are taking longer to put together than I expected, I thought it would be fun to take a quick look at the best jerseys that Adidas provided in that 7-year span. Now, this is just my top 10 list, and to be perfectly honest, there were a lot of good jerseys that Adidas put out there, some bad ones as well, but there's certainly more than 10 that could be on this list, and with this being obviously entirely subjective, anyway, it could probably go without saying that I'm sure not everyone is going to agree entirely on this top 10 list, especially in the order that I have them. It would be pretty surprising if anybody agreed 100% with it. Heck, I don't even know if I'd have the exact same top 10 list in 6 months or a year down the road. With that said, though, enough wasting time, let's jump right into it. In the 10th spot, I have Colorado with their first reverse retro jersey. So it's an Avalanche jersey, but really it's a Nordiques jersey just colored in an Avalanche way. It's also one of just 2 jerseys on this list that's a white background jersey. I typically do tend to prefer the colored jerseys, the home jerseys, at least right now in the NHL. Still, this one, it's undeniable that it is really a fantastic jersey. I do actually think I prefer it to the classic Nordiques one. Red, white, and blue are just all over the place in sports in general, so the Avalanche color scheme gives it a little bit of extra uniqueness. I know it doesn't necessarily fit the French background quite as well as the Nordiques were going with their colors. Still a fantastic jersey, and not the only one on this list that is a throwback to a team that no longer exists. Actually, speaking of which, the jersey I have in 9th place is also a team that technically no longer exists. I have the Arizona Coyotes Kachina jersey, the home jersey they wore for the last few seasons. Now, Arizona had a number of pretty good jerseys. Actually, both of their reverse retros I liked quite a bit. Probably the purple one a little bit better. While I did like both of those reverse retros quite a bit, and I think each one of them was among the best of their reverse retro classes respectively, I'd still prefer their home jersey. Both of those reverse retros had just the head of the Kachina Coyote. This one is the whole thing, and while I understand why it's not everybody's favorite, I can also see why it did become incredibly popular and ultimately came back as their home jersey by popular demand. It's just a fantastic jersey that fits the area very well, and I am sad to see it leave the NHL. At least for now, anyway. We'll see what happens in the future. Moving on, though, in the 8th spot, I have the first of what could be seen as a controversial pick in this top 10 in the current Edmonton Oilers' 3rd jersey. It's the two-tone one with the dark blue and orange. It might not be entirely evident from the rest of this list, but I do love a good two-tone jersey. To me, they just tend to look a lot better and cleaner than the vast majority of jerseys, and especially when it's two-tone color on color rather than just something in white. Even with that said, I do like the Leafs' normal home jersey, but it still doesn't necessarily stand out from the crowd quite like this Oilers jersey does. I also do really like the Dallas Stars 3rd jersey, the neon one that most people seem to hate. For whatever reason, I do like that one. It didn't make the list. To me, this is the best of the two-tone jerseys. Maybe a better example of a more popular jersey from Dallas would be their Winter Classic one with the big D and then it says Stars across the middle of it. And actually, while I'm on the topic of unpopular two-tone jerseys that I like much more than the average person seems to, the matchup of, I think it was a stadium series between the Flyers and Penguins, just had a black jersey with everything else being yellow, and the Flyers had a duller orange, I think, which I do like their brighter orange more than the duller version, but it was just orange and black. I did really like those jerseys. I have to admit, I even did like the helmets quite a bit more than the ones we have now with advertisements on him. I know they weren't terribly popular at the time, and anyway, all that to say, I do like two-tone jerseys, especially color on color, like I mentioned before. And to me, this is the best of the bunch. It's the best Oilers jersey that they've had in quite a while, in my opinion, and I know that's going to be controversial as well, but I like it a lot, even if I'm not always a huge fan of the team that wears it. Staying north of the border, up next in the 7th spot, I have the only other mainly white jersey on this list to the Colorado reverse retro that's really a Nordiques jersey. This time it is actually a jersey that represents the team wearing it, even if it's a previous version of the team. It's the second reverse retro, this time of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, to me, this is the best Jets jersey they've had since, well, maybe ever. I do really like that it's the 2 tones of blue and white. It does make it look really clean. I know the red is usually a part of their look, and most people are probably going to prefer some of their more classic-looking jerseys that share this same logo, or at least a similar one from the first iteration of the Jets. And obviously, this one is considerably better than their first attempt at a reverse retro that shared a lot of the same themes, but was on dark gray rather than white. This one's just clearly way better, and to me really suits the Jets very well, especially with the whole whiteout thing that they do there in Winnipeg. Honestly, that did play a role in how it ended up on this list, the way that it fits the city and the team that wears it. I mean, it is a nice looking clean jersey in its own right, but the whole whiteout thing and being true north, as they like to say in Winnipeg, definitely adds into why a white jersey for me is better in Winnipeg than anywhere else. Again, with my lean towards the more colorful jerseys typically. And then in the 6th spot, you knew there had to be at least one on this list somewhere, but I do genuinely think that this Winter Classic jersey from the Seattle Kraken is one of the best jerseys that Adidas put out in the 7-year span of making jerseys in the NHL. To me, it's the best Winter Classic jersey that Adidas ever made, and certainly one of the better Winter Classic jerseys ever put out there in the first place. I know there's a lot of especially Blackhawks jerseys that people like a lot. For whatever reason, I don't dislike Blackhawks jerseys, but they just don't do a lot for me, so we're not going to see any of them on this list. But this Winter Classic jersey, I absolutely love it. I was a little on the fence maybe at first. I liked it, but I wasn't sure how much I was really going to end up loving the jersey. But some of the subtle hints, obviously the throwback to the history of hockey in Seattle with the Metropolitans, with the striping, but making it a very clearly Kraken-themed jersey. I have a whole video on the jersey, so you can go back and look at that. There's some small details as well, as obviously like the felt of the logo and the numbers. Just a lot of nice touches, and it doesn't hurt that it's attached to one of the best Kraken memories in the short time that the team has existed. And yes, I know that even in spite of the fact that the majority of people that watch this channel are Kraken fans, there's going to be plenty of people that just see this as a homer pick, and the only reason there's a Kraken jersey in the first place is because this is a Kraken channel and that's my favorite team. But again, this is my list of favorite jerseys, and the fact that I cheer for the team certainly makes me like the jerseys more. Even with that being said, they're one of the best branded teams in the NHL, in my opinion, which I thought was true from the get-go of when they released the branding before the inaugural season. I was ready to be very critical of it if they had picked certain color schemes or certain mascots. Maybe not mascot, but nicknames for the team. Either way, I think they've done a fantastic job. I almost put their home jersey as well on this list. I know most people tend to prefer the away jersey, but again, I like more colorful ones, and I think the home jersey does a better job of taking advantage of the logo. I suppose since I mentioned it earlier, their reverse retro jersey, since they only had the one reverse retro, was almost a two-tone jersey. It had the red eye, but it was 2 tones of blue. It just looked a little bit different because they put the way that anyway, it doesn't really matter. That's a discussion for a different time. The point is, to me, the best of the 4 jerseys that Kraken have worn on the ice is this Winter Classic one. It didn't really go that great for them when they actually wore it on the ice after the Winter Classic. Still a fantastic jersey, and to me, one of the 10 best that Adidas made, that a team actually wore on the ice in a game. But even with all that having been said, and for as much as I do like the first 5 jerseys on this list, to me there is a gap still between the rest of the list and the top 5 jerseys. One of them is kind of just my favorite of a group of jerseys that have a very similar theme, but we'll get to that. I wanted to limit to just one of those similar grouping of jerseys. Either way, these are the 5 best jerseys by a country mile in whatever order you want to have them that Adidas made in their 7-year span, with again the stipulation that a team actually had to wear them on the ice in a game. Starting with, to me, the 3rd best jersey that a team still uses consistently in the Columbus Blue Jackets' 3rd jersey, the Cannon jersey, which I still don't know why it isn't their primary jersey. It's very clearly the best jersey that the Blue Jackets have. I'm not really a huge fan of their home and away jerseys. In fact, I think they're probably some of my least favorite home and away jerseys in the NHL at the moment. The 3rd jersey, just on an entirely other level. I hope that the Blue Jackets go to something like it here in the near future, which is definitely possible with some rebrands likely coming down the line here in the next couple of seasons. With the Fanatics takeover, we already saw the Kings and Ducks do very much needed rebrands, and rebrands for the better. Maybe they didn't get them entirely perfect, but certainly improve the branding of both of those teams. So hopefully we see something like that with the Blue Jackets here in the next couple seasons, and if they use this 3rd jersey as a template for that, the Blue Jackets could look a lot better on the ice, even if they don't necessarily play better, though At least personally, I hope they do manage to do that, because their fans are definitely deserving of that after all this time. Anyway, again, it's just a fantastic jersey. The color scheme, again, the 2 shades of blue and then a cream color, just a big fan of that. Obviously, 2 shades of blue and white or off-white is something that I seem to like quite a bit, since this is the 3rd jersey on the list that features that to a large degree. Also, the cannon in the middle of the logo is fantastic. I don't really follow soccer very much at all, but when people ask me who my favorite Premier League, I'm pretty sure they're in the Premier League, but my favorite European soccer team is, even though I don't really watch it at all, I'll always say Arsenal, just because they've got a cannon for their logo. At least I'm pretty sure they do. Either way, the point is the cannon is a really cool logo. Usually I'm not a huge fan of text on logos, but it works with the Blue Jackets for me. So yeah, this is just easily one of the best jerseys in the NHL at the moment. And like I said, one of the 3 best jerseys that's worn on a consistent basis, year in, year out. At least for right now, anyway. Moving up into the 4th spot, I have one of those other 2, at least at this point, consistently worn jerseys in the NHL, in the Colorado Avalanche 3rd jersey, which is the 2nd Avalanche jersey on this list. I also am a big fan of especially their home jersey, but also their away. It really works with, obviously, them being the Avalanche, so it's snow theme. Just Avalanche branding, some of the best in the NHL. Again, maybe there's a little bit of not necessarily homerism, because I'm not from Colorado, but that was the team that I cheered for before the Kraken, so either way, I think branding probably had something to do with that as well. This jersey, to me, is the best Avalanche jersey that Adidas has ever made. Obviously, the clear nod to the Rockies, the first NHL team in Colorado. Of course, as we all know, in spite of their fantastic branding, things didn't work out for the Rockies in Colorado. Not the baseball team, though they're kind of hapless in their own right. Either way, these Rockies ended up moving on and eventually turning into the New Jersey Devils. Still, their fantastic branding was not entirely lost to time, as the Avalanche have now at least brought it back a couple of times in different variations. This one mixing their current branding and color scheme with the Rockies branding of the time. It ends up turning into one of the best jerseys in the NHL. And that brings us to the top 3, and I have, and this is the one where I was talking about, it's, at least to me, the best of the on-ice worn of this type. But it's the Carolina Hurricanes first reverse retro, the gray Whalers jersey. Now, they've done a few different Whalers jerseys, and I don't actually know all of which ones they've actually worn on the ice. To me, this is the best of the ones the Hurricanes have actually worn on the ice. In general, you can't go wrong with the Whalers branding. It might be some of the best branding that professional sports in general have ever seen. And while it might not be my favorite Whalers jersey ever, and even with that being said, the gray clearly works for a team called the Whalers. Most whales are gray. And even aside from that, the color scheme of blue, green, and gray is obviously something, as a Seattle sports fan, I'm going to be a pretty big fan of, or at least conditioned to be a big fan of anyway, and I certainly am. Yeah, it's really, like I said, hard to go wrong with the branding of the Whalers. Unfortunately, they've probably been lost at time, except for the occasional time where the Hurricanes dredge up their history and probably annoy some people in Hartford a little bit. Actually, now that I think about it, and I didn't really even fully realize this until just now, but 3 of the jerseys on this list are of, well, at least the branding is of a team that no longer exists, including the Coyotes in that. And you could even maybe knock that up to 4 if you go with original branding, since the Jets are an old version of the Jets that turned into the Coyotes, who are now in Utah. And then the Colorado one, like I just said, is of the Colorado Rockies, or mainly themed off of the Rockies, who again no longer exist and are now the New Jersey Devils. So half of this list is branding of a team that no longer at least plays in that city, if still exists at all. I mean, I guess they all still exist, just some of them rebranded entirely when they moved to the other city. Anyway, the point is, 5 of these jerseys are old branding from teams that, yeah, have either been replaced or what have you. Anyway, moving on to the top 2. In the 2nd spot, I have the LA Kings 2nd reverse retro. This is, I think, what almost everybody was hoping the Kings would do when they did their rebrand, go all into the yellow and purple color scheme from Kings past. Obviously, they didn't quite end up doing that. They stuck with the black, white, and silver color scheme, but still going with a pretty similar logo to this one. When this Kings jersey came out, I think it was pretty unanimously seen as one of the best reverse retros made in either one of the 2 sets of them. And yeah, there was some competition. But either way, regardless of whether or not this was necessarily everybody's favorite reverse retro, I don't think it's going to be a terribly controversial pick here in the top 3, as it was pretty widely seen as one of the best jerseys in the NHL that season, and maybe in quite a while. It really does perfectly mix some of the best of all throughout the Kings history, the colors that most people prefer to see from the Kings, and also one of the most beloved Kings logos. So yeah, a fantastic jersey that, like I said, if I had my pick, this is what they would have gone to, or at least something very close to it when they rebranded. They at least got close with the logo, just didn't end up going with the more fun and out there colors, sticking with the boring black, white, and silver color scheme. Which actually is a similar complaint to how I think of the Ducks' new rebranding as well. It's a fantastic rebranding. I really do like it quite a bit. They definitely picked the best logo that they could have, and even I think made some improvements to it, where I think the Kings kind of went backwards from this version of the logo a little bit with the changes that they made. To me, again, it just came down to picking the wrong color scheme with the Ducks. They stuck with the orange, gold, and black that I've never really been a fan of. Still, it's a huge upgrade from what the Ducks had previously, and that's, again, true of the Kings. Still, nothing close to this Kings jersey, which, at least at the moment, obviously is my second favorite jersey that Adidas ever put on NHL ice. Before we get to the number 1 spot, though, I do want to call out some honorable mentions that almost made this top 10, or at least the bottom 5 of the top 10, which, speaking of that recent rebrand for the Ducks, included their 18-19 third jersey, which was going back to that same Mighty Ducks logo, just with a black background rather than going all in on the eggplant and teal from the Mighty Ducks days. I do prefer that quite a bit more than what they ended up going with their third jersey ever since then, with the orange-backed Mighty Ducks logo and just their current colors. Basically, the jersey that they're going to have as their home jersey now, the orange background with a gold upside-down triangle for the Mighty Ducks logo. I just much prefer, even if it was a black background with at least the hints of the teal and eggplant. To me, still a lot better than the orange and gold that they have now. Other jerseys that I had in there were St. Louis's third jersey, the brighter blue color. I just think it's a much cleaner looking jersey than their typical home jersey. I also had Vancouver's second reverse retro, which does look a lot like what the Abbotsford Canucks now wear. I do think that the numbers on the front of the jersey were kind of a nice touch. For whatever reason, I really liked it. Even if it's a bit of a collegiate look to me for whatever reason, it did look pretty nice on those jerseys. So those were ones that I really liked. I also, like I said before, like the Dallas neon jerseys. I know they're not very popular, but I do like those. Of the other two-tone ones, I have to say that my favorite Penguins jersey probably is the two-tone Penguins one with the black background and the yellow logo and numbers. Also, some other just regular home jerseys that teams wear. I'm a huge fan of Seattle's, like I said. The most recent Sharks is actually my favorite. I know not everyone was a huge favorite of the small changes the Sharks made to the jerseys, but I do like those. Like I said, the Avalanche jersey I like quite a bit. Buffalo's I like. Toronto's I also like. And I also even consider the Flames' current home jerseys. I think they made a huge upgrade when they got rid of the black and just went to a much cleaner looking white, yellow, and red. So yeah, I'm a fan of the way that their jerseys look, even if I'm quite often cheering for them to lose by virtue of being in the same division as the Kraken. And like I said in the beginning, there's been plenty of other great jerseys over Adidas era. I think it has been the best era of jerseys in the NHL. Certainly the quality of jerseys and even the texture of the different fabrics they use. I'm also a big fan of the whole prime green thing and using some recycled materials in the making of the last couple seasons of jerseys for Adidas. From what I've seen of the Fanatics jerseys, while they're not necessarily as bad or doesn't look like they're going to be quite as bad as a lot of people are fearing, they do look a little cheaper and not quite as good as what Adidas has been putting out there over these certainly the last couple of years, but really over the last 7 years entirely. As for the end of this Adidas era, and my favorite jersey that Adidas put out in that 7-year span, though, it is a regular home jersey of one of the NHL teams, and it is, for people that have been paying attention to this channel for quite a while, probably not a huge surprise since I didn't mention it in the honorable mentions and it hasn't come up yet. It's the Minnesota Wild current home jersey. The Wild, to me, have hands down the best branding, not only in the NHL, but probably all of professional sports. I just absolutely love the Wild branding. Now, the name Wild, I'll grant you, is a bit generic and kind of weird, but even off of a generic and weird name, they've come up with a fantastic logo. One of the first series I did on this channel was a March Madness style breakdown of the best logos in the big four sports in North America, and the Wild one, spoiler alert, ended up winning that whole thing, and I don't think that would be any different if I went back and did it again right now. I just absolutely love the Wild color scheme, logo, and their home jersey, their current home jersey, doesn't disappoint under that logo. First of all, green is my favorite color, and especially dark forest green like what the Wild go with, or at least pretty close to that, is my favorite shade of green. So already when most of the jersey is that, especially considering that it's not a particularly popular color or heavily used color in professional sports, there's a few teams that use it. I have to admit that even though they're one of the Mariners' rivals, I've always loved the branding of the Oakland A's, soon to be Vegas A's maybe. Either way, green isn't used enough as a primary color in sports for me to get tired of it like some other color schemes. I also do like the jersey of the Dallas Stars, just their primary logo's kind of not doing it for me, so that's why that one wasn't really even a consideration. Still, the Wild jersey, the dark green, fantastic. The off-white stripe behind the logo helps make that logo pop. Another great choice. The little bit of a red line on the sleeve that would get a bit busy if that ran into the chest part of the jersey, so I think it's a good decision not to do that. The lettering, I mean, the lettering doesn't really do anything. It's your typical sports block lettering, so it's not like that really helps the jersey stand out in the way that some other fonts around the NHL do. I mean, just to talk about number font for a hot second, the number font on the Colorado third jersey is another reason that I really love those jerseys. But anyway, this Minnesota Wild home jersey to me is just obviously the best jersey. I don't think I really even had to think that long and hard about it, other than I know it's going to be a unpopular pick, probably is the number one. I think most people see it as a pretty good jersey, but number one is maybe a bit out there. Also, for what it's worth, the prime green version of this jersey is even better with the added details they did on the stitching of the logo to make the trees look even more three-dimensional in particular. In general, just, yeah, absolutely my favorite jersey, my favorite color scheme, and my favorite logo all comes together to, yeah, make this a pretty easy pick. Speaking of unpopular picks, I'm also, I would say, a pretty big fan of the Winter Classic jersey that the Wild had that was fairly unpopular. I mean, I won't think it would have been a great regular home jersey, but as a special event jersey, I did really like that one. So, yeah, just the color scheme of the Wild and the logo, it would have been pretty hard to mess up. Not to say that they haven't messed it up. The red jerseys the Wild had a few years back, I think that was back in the Reebok era, but yeah, those were not particularly great. Either way, these ones, the best. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, what your top 10 would be if you agree with any of my top 10, or maybe different order for some of them. Yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And until next time, which should be one of either the next 101 or the History of Hockey Part 6 that are coming out here in hopefully the next few weeks. I've been working on both of them, so those are in the pipeline. Just wanted to get this quick, fun one out there. And yeah, until then, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like and enjoy the video, the buttons for that kind of stuff down below that helps support the channel, so I appreciate you using them. And, well, only a month and a half to 2 months until we actually get real hockey back, so that's nice.